You have 10 minutes.
I just gotta put on my clothes.
You have, like, the body of a man now.
Hey, Dad, can you not be weird?
Okay.
Can you close my door?
Yeah.
Can you close the door?
Yeah. You're going off to find your college. It's not this special.
We're fully booked tonight.
How about that one?
It's not available.
Oh, looks like it's available.
Yeah, it's not.
That night, my mind drifted back to college. So many friends have become successful. Craig Fisher worked for the White House. Jason Hatfield had his own hedge fund. Billy Wursler sold his tech company at 40. What do I have? I work for a nonprofit and nothing to show for it.
Somebody asked about you. You know, whatever happened to you.
Where's Brad? I remember that guy, Brad.
Be happy.
Love
Be
you.
present.
All right.
I love you.
These are competitive schools, Troy. Just try not to put too much pressure on yourself.
My counselor thinks that I'll get into pretty much everywhere I apply.
Kid's going to Harvard.
They'll jinx me, dude.
My son is a very talented musician. Also composes his own music. So
Wonderful.
I'm pretty sure Harvard is going to be in the running.
Oh, you think Harvard's got a chance?
Suddenly, my thoughts darkened. Troy could easily end up struggling like me.
This is Harvard. Even geniuses get rejected. We need to do everything we can.
Dad, I'm about to go have my interview. Do you really need to be jumping all over me right now? You're nuts.
Do I sound jaded? I started out as idealistic as any of your friends over there.
You're 50 years old and you still think that the world was made for you.
I'm 47. Sometimes I worry that people think of me as a failure.
Oh, that's right. You have your little thing. Oh, that is a cool thing that you do. That is good stuff.
Your friends sound like dicks. Everybody's just thinking about themselves. The only person that's thinking about you is me.
Isn't it crazy how we made this kid and now he's this brilliant, amazing person? I'm proud of you.
Dad, you having some kind of nervous breakdown or something?
Thank you so much, everybody. Guys, give it up. Mike White is here.
All right. Thank you.
Genuinely one of my favorite writers that there is out there. Mike, thank you so much for being here. Austin, thank you for being here as well. Mike, let's talk about where the idea for this film came from. I think a lot of people think it's about a man simply dealing with his status in the world, but I found that it was much more universal and about so much more than that, and about specifically the idea of like what we think we are owed, what we think we should have, how we relate to our family in regards to that, and a great line in the film as well about possession, feeling the need to possess things rather than sort of feel them.
Yeah.
Where did that come from for you?
Yeah, I think even no matter where, like, you know, you may have a good life and, you know, from someone else's point of view, you're like, you're doing great. But like, you still have those moments where you're lying in bed and being like, I don't know, does the world love me? Like, where do I stand? Like, you know, feeling like maybe the grass is always greener. And I think in the world now, like with Instagram and the way we like curate our lives for each other to like create maximum envy, like, oh, look, he's on vacation again. Great. Good for him. Really happy for them. And just some of that, you know, comparative anxiety that I think people, deal with, I felt like was worth. It's the side of me that I think is the most embarrassing, where I'm like, God, I'm so not cool right now, like being like petty about like, you know, oh, someone else is succeeding, and I'm like, yeah, good. You know, struggling to like, you know, be cool about that.
Why didn't I succeed like that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I do
that kind of moment. So, but I felt like maybe instead of like hiding that, like maybe like getting into it and, you know, maybe shedding light on it will, you know, have catharsis for other people too.
When did you figure out that it would mostly be internal monologue for the main character? And did you have any hesitation in regards to doing that in reference to Enlightened, which is also, I mean, I love both of these projects so much, but there is a similarity there.
Yeah, I mean, people, you know, sometimes people are like, voiceover is the crutch of the screenwriter or whatever. But for me, it's like in this...
Best movies. Taxi Driver has voiceover. It's like the greatest movie ever made.
For me, in order to tell this story, it was like, because basically his life, you know, there's not that much drama in it. It's just, but in his head, he's either up or he's down. And it's like the only way to really feel him or access those, that kind of conversation he's having with himself is by having voiceover. So it wasn't, I think it's a helpful tool for me to tell the stories the way I want to tell them. So
how did you craft the voiceover sort of structurally within the plot of the screenplay as well? Because things are happening with Austin's character and with Michael Sheen's character, and sort of how they're going to progress through this college admissions process. But at the same time, there is a progression of things that are going on in his head. I'm just curious what your process was in sort of outlining all of that.
Well, I just knew that, the day itself, had its own sort of structure. But, inside his head, he's like, I'm up, or, I'm a piece of crap. And, just making sure that all of it sort of built to this kind of, some kind of catharsis for him. And I think I wanted to start it off as, it seems like it's just this midlife crisis, comparative anxiety comedy. But as it goes along, it becomes slightly, in a sort of stealthy way, hopefully, a father-son movie. And I think that was important, that ultimately he realizes, oh wait, this is what it's all about. And similarly, the movie, it's like, oh wait, as it reveals itself to him, it also reveals itself to the audience, which is like, oh, this is what's important. This is what the movie's about.
But one of the things that I also love about the film is that he realizes that multiple times within the film, and he can still fall back into the thing that that's negative, and he's trying to pull himself out of, which is so realistic.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because I think that's true. I think we have moments where we're like, oh, namaste. I know what, I know what's really important, and then 2 minutes later, you don't get any, you get the crappiest table at the restaurant or whatever it is, and you're just like, oh yeah. And so that sense of you have your epiphany and then you forget it and then you remember and then you forget it, and in a way you're just kind of circling the drain toward wisdom, and that hopefully one day you will, if not be in the hole, you'll be close enough to that the circle, it doesn't take so long to get back there.
Austin, you play a very believable 17-year-old kid, and I'm curious, but it's a different...
He's 35.
Different kind of 17-year-old kid than I think I was, or that I was used to, which is far more dramatic and angsty. Your character is very good at, he's much more measured and together than his actual dad is, and it seems like everybody else is around him. Can you talk about crafting that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was also what Mike wrote, I think. But I thought that, I feel like that was important to show the difference by how the son was handling, because, the son has his own kind of problems, which I think a lot of people do, when they're that age and they're kind of deciding, do I want to go to college? Which college do I want to go to? What do I want to study? I mean, and I went through that, and it's very that is it's a stressful time.
So you are 35, and this is 19.
Yeah, I am 35.
99.
45. But it, and I thought, that was, interesting or important, or this is what I liked about, the script anyways, was that sort of, difference in, how Troy was, having his own kind of little crisis, but
handling it much better.
Yeah, and
I think that it's usually sometimes in these movies it's like the exasperated dad dealing with the petulant kid, Dad, you don't understand me.
You kind of deal with that right at the beginning of the film in the first scene where he comes into the room, and instead of Troy being like, Dad, get out of my room, he's very measured about it, and it's just like, I need to get
Dad,
dressed.
I'm stressed out. Just don't act weird today.
Yeah, I'm wondering sort of where that came from in terms of directing Austin that way and measure and tonally making the character like that.
Well, Austin honestly didn't need a lot of direction. It was just a perfect little pot of gold. No, it was, honestly, he could teach a class at the Learning Annex on, naturalist acting. He's, so, it's there's never, don't get self-conscious, but, he's just...
The Learning Annex, there's nothing to get self-conscious about that.
But, he's just, he's weirdly... supernatural as just all of his choices, but then within that there's also just a real intelligent approach to the character that he just built to himself, and even in his first audition it was just kind of spot on, and And I did like that, like in this movie, you know, like some of the younger people actually have a lot of wisdom, and that it's really the older people that are kind of, you know, lost and flailing, I guess.
Can you talk about? Did you know right away when you went into playing Troy that he would be a little bit more measured? He would be a little more downbeat than most teenagers in movies.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it is written that way. You know, am I crazy or?
I mean, but you did it.
I mean, I don't know.
It's you on the screen.
I don't know. I mean, I tried to follow kind of because I mean the script is, you know, it's I mean it's one of the best scripts like I've ever like truly read. I mean he's
beautiful.
No, I mean he's really, I mean he's really just like an incredible writer. So I mean I really just tried to kind of follow that as much as possible. So anything I did, I don't know, I would to him as much as, you know.
What I liked about it, though, is that he would get that. He just brought this, which was like, you know, there's an age where you're, like everything your parents say is just kind of like nails on a chalkboard, but you don't really want to get into it with them. That's what I find that sometimes, like when I see, you know, TV shows where like, no, kids don't want to like start a fight with their parents. You want to just survive. Like, how do I just survive this? And you just go inside yourself, and you're like, one day I'll be in college and I can get through this. I don't want to get into it. Let's not like. Okay.
Almost over. It's almost over.
Yeah,
it's almost over. Talk about casting Ben Stiller. Did you have him in mind for the part when you were writing it?
Yeah, I didn't have Ben in mind, but when I, you know, had it finished, I was like, well, this would be like, you know, perfect for Ben. Is it too perfect for Ben? But then I thought like maybe, you know, I just knew that he would like nail this, and because it kind of goes in a different way than maybe a more familiar Ben Stiller movie, I thought that would be exciting, I guess.
I think it goes in a different way than I think what you said earlier of a more familiar sort of white male midlife crisis movie as well. Even having a character kind of address the inherent privilege of being a straight white man in a midlife crisis. When did you sort of recognize while writing it that you sort of had to address that in some capacity, especially given the times that we live in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like it is a character that really challenges your initial. It's not like, you know, he is a little self-pitying and self-mythologizing, and so like I did think you needed a scene where someone just puts the mirror up to him, is like, you don't have, you know, you have enough, you're doing pretty well, like it's like cut the crap, like and I think that is, you know, to me I feel like we all living in the world, you know, some, you know, we're doing okay, you know, but like there's always the you know, that moment where you feel like, yeah, I think it's part of human nature to, you know, have longing for something more, and while you should have some perspective on that, you know, it's also, I feel like it is a part of the human condition to not always even find reasons to be unhappy, even when there really is no reason, you know.
You gave an interview with Terry Gross recently where I won't get too into it with you because it will get emotional, but you talked a little bit about your father and how this in many ways was a thank you to your dad, this movie, which you sort of realized it. And there is, without giving anything away for people who haven't seen it, there's an absolutely beautiful, tender, wonderful scene near the end of the film between Austin and Ben, and I'm wondering what that was like for you to be writing that, and if you knew in that moment that you were kind of writing that possibly to your father.
I mean, to me, it wasn't as conscious that I was thinking about my dad, but my dad, you know, he spent most of his life as an activist and worked in nonprofits, and then he retired. And not with a lot of money because of the nature of the work that he did. And I think at that stage in his life, he was looking back and like, it's like, should I have done something else? You know, like other people I know have a lot more security now than I do, and wishing he could give something to his, you know, like an inheritance to his. And it's like, and to me, I see my dad as a success, huge success as a person and the life he's lived. And yeah, there is a moment in that where the kid is affirming his dad in a way that I felt, yeah, like I wanted to affirm my dad that way.
Austin, what was it like not just doing that scene, but working with Ben overall?
I mean, it was great. I really don't have like enough like, you know, good things to say about him, and I mean that honestly. I mean, he's incredibly focused and kind, and you know, he's very smart, and he wants to, you know, always make everything better. So, yeah, I mean, I really, if, I was just sitting here like just you and me and, there wasn't any of, this stuff going on, I would still tell you the same thing. I mean, I really liked him a lot, and he's a very good actor to work with.
Mike, talk about casting the sort of three. I don't know how you define them, but the three friends that are what he's essentially jealous of. You have Jermaine Clement doing a wonderful Jermaine Clement kind of character right away. As soon as he showed up and you see him on the beach, I started laughing. And Michael Sheen doing a great Michael Sheen and Luke Wilson. But then also you playing this sort of flamboyant film director who's made a ton of money at this point and is galloping around consistently. What made you cast yourself in that?
Well, honestly, it was a practical reason, which is like we didn't have that much money, and we this part had no lines, but had to shoot in Montreal and Boston and Honolulu, and I was like, so we'll cast an extra that we have to fly to every city and where we're shooting in, and so actually the guy who plays my husband was our director of photography, and the woman who played Luke Wilson's wife was our costume designer. So we were just doing the indie thing where you double up to save on plane tickets. Exactly. You're here, get in there.
How did you? Well, this is a really silly question, but how did you craft the sort of gallivant from the car to the private plane between you and the DP to get the dogs? Because it's one of the funniest runs possible. It's so spot on and hilarious.
You mean because we were holding our hands and our dogs and running to? How did we choreograph that? It just came naturally.
It's just such a carefree, beautiful run, exactly what this jealous man would imagine,
Well, what's funny is it was slightly a stressful day because we actually had a helicopter landing on the camera, and then we had to run to this plane, and it was just it was kind of a choreographed, coordinated moment that we were on walkies, and I'm directing from inside the helicopter, I'm start the thing. And then then as we land, I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be happy and I'm feeling the wealth, enjoying the wealth. And so I just said to Javier, I was like, feel the wealth. And we just started
it was more running. You go, 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 let's go.
What you're looking at is a person just feeling rich. That was what I was thinking in my head. That's why I look so happy.
And Jenna Fischer as well, who's wonderful in the film. I was complimenting a specific moment that she has. Is so tonally perfect and specific. Talk about casting her and working with her.
Well, Jenna is a friend of mine. And sometimes it's hard in Hollywood because you can't really audition people at that level, and so it's so basically you just have to offer stuff, and so sometimes it's nice to cast friends because that they can bring a certain quality to the part. And Jenna is just she's kind of a wise person, very smart actress, and very relatable and likable, and I just knew that she have all these qualities that I think would because she has a significant part, but it is just little chunks here and there, and to be able to just kind of
there's a lot you can kind of extrapolate though from, I think, like you said, just her persona.
Yeah, her persona. Luke Wilson too. It's I know he's such a likable guy, and in the context of what his character is, I was like, you want to, it's that's.
Whereas Michael Sheen, what do we extract from his person?
Well, Michael Sheen, it's that scene. He has a scene that's actually in the script, it was 17 pages long. Really? I mean, it was just because it's a long conversation at the end of the movie about and it gets into it kind of it sort of encapsulates the whole movie. And I just knew that I needed a trained thespian who could learn that, who would come prepared with all the line, and he is, he's such he's a true actor's actor, and he, I could give him one adjustment and he could incorporate it into the entire kind of global approach to the scene. And yeah, he's an impressive dude.
Did you lose the thread there, Mike?
No, I mean,
you gave me a strange look. I want to go back to something that I really brought up at the beginning of the interview, and I know that this film is about status and it's about a relationship between a father and son, but I was really moved by the conversation about possession and ownership over things rather than sort of feeling them, and that feels very specific to to a materialistic time that we live in, and a very materialistic president as well, which I'm sure you wrote and made this prior to him, far prior to him really being elected. But is that where a little bit of that came from?
Well, I do. I mean, not to get too heady, but like I do
Please,
think in
get
the world
heady.
of like capitalism, I think we are kind of encouraged through just be living in this society to want more and have more and spend more and consume more. And like there was a time where like you'd go the lifestyles of the rich, like that it feels now like you watch the Kardashians and they fly on private jets and all they do is shop and they don't, and you start to feel like, oh well, they're it's like it starts to feel like everybody, like that is the example of the successful life, to live these sort of extravagant lifestyles,
To be able to consume without thought.
yeah, and that ultimately I do think personally it can be crippling, and it makes you feel like you are lacking when you have so much, like, or you can, it's all how you look at your life. But then I also think globally it's problematic because the world can't sustain 7 billion people flying private to or whatever, or like living at that level of consumption, and so it, in a sense, it feels like the global brain that we are all share needs to kind of have a reality check of what we consider success, or how to show that we are successful. And the kind of comfort and convenience that we demand maybe is something that is, ultimately gonna, come and bite us in the ass.
The moment that Brad has that reality check in the film, did you ever write a different version of it where it was more explicit or more of an idea based off of this global idea? Because it's far more personal for him and about
Yeah.
his son.
You mean as far as the possession part?
Yeah.
Well, it was like, to me, it was like, it's like he sees these beautiful girls and he's like, it's like the desire, and it's like, and then also, it's like that this feeling that we need to, like, I think with him, it's like this feeling like, he wants to own the world. He wants to own, it's like he wants all these external things to validate himself and proof of a successful life. And I think in that moment, he is seeing himself in that moment where he's like, he can enjoy life. He can love the world again, even if it doesn't necessarily love him back in the way that he wants. Like, he can just, he can be, experience the beauty of life without feeling like he has to be on top and the guy who everyone else is envying. And he has this relationship with his son, obviously, that's
Envious in many ways for others.
Yeah.
You've been, as I said before, one of my favorite writers and directors, going back to your early work, Chuck and Buck, and even on Freaks and Geeks, all the way through. How have you found that your process and your writing has changed since those early days? Because you've worked on big comedies, you've also worked on television, you've worked on small films.
Well, I hope it's
No good on
gotten
that
as.
question?
I don't know. Has it gotten better, worse? I don't know.
I think you've maintained a high level of quality.
You maintained a high level of quality. Thank you. Sure. It gets harder, I think, to satisfy yourself. I want to write something where I'm like, oh, where it feels revelatory to me. Like, where did this come from? Like something like inspired, you know what I mean? And I think that as you get older and you've done it before, it's harder to knock your own socks off,
To not sort of go by the beats that or go by
it's just also be writing something like, oh, I've written this before, or this kind of scene before, or this feels like it's you just get more and more. It's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about wine, but I'm sure it's like people who or wine. It's like where after a while you're like, oh, it's a little, where you're like, you taste the soup and you're like, it needs a little bit, it needs to be more complex or blah, blah, blah. And so you start to you get more a little bitchy about you're like, and so it's harder. Like for me, I want to get stoked and get back in and be stoked about what I'm writing. And sometimes, it just gets harder, I guess.
What was a revelatory moment for you when you were writing Brad's Status? When did it have that revelatory feel?
I do like the movie. I'm really happy with the movie. And
So it never did.
it never did. But
Your tone was like,
well, no, I'm just saying it's interesting, honestly, coming here and talking to you about it and having conversations about it and realizing it is full of meaning for me, and having other people respond to it in a kind of deeper way is really satisfying. And then having it just starts to feel like it is what art or whatever, what I want movies to be, which is it kind of deepens my life. I feel like it feels like it makes my life more meaningful, for lack of a better cliche. And that is what that's what I aspire to do. It's like I want it to be, I want it to have a meaning. I want it to be alive. I don't want it to be just like a product that I'm coming here to it's just about like just selling a product. Like I want it to feel like, whatever happens, like it had meaning for me.
It had meaning for me too. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I love it
thanks
so
so
much. Let's get some questions from you guys. Who has a question? Right here.
Hey guys, so I love the School of Rock, and
thanks.
I was wondering, like, how do you approach writing for kids, characters, and like even in this movie where you have a younger character, and for you, did you have a connection with your character already? Like, did you see any similarities with him that you connected to before going into it?
Well, yeah, like with School of Rock, I mean, I think with this too, like, I remember when I was a kid, like, I didn't even like people saying kid. Like, let's put the kids I'm not a freaking kid. Like, I wanted to, like, it's like, I wanted as a kid to be taken serious, like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not an idiot kid. So, like when I try to write, like younger voices, like, I wanted to, do service to the intelligence and like that kids aren't like, Dad, I don't know, some like whatever, like like some cliche of how a kid talks or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. I feel like there's definitely. I mean, there's a lot of things I feel like I could relate to in that. Just the time in his life. Just the time and what exactly do I want to do, and do I want to go here? Is this the right decision? All that kind of stuff. And then just a whole relationship with with your parents, of course, is relatable. So yeah, there was definitely a lot.
Next question. Oh, you.
Hi there. Thank you for being here. So which other college campuses did you film at, and what was the experience like filming on location at Harvard?
Okay. Well, we didn't really film at Harvard. We were able to like a guerrilla style film group. Like we shot some shots right out in front of Harvard before they kicked us out. But anyway, thanks for asking. Shot.
Mike, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your answer. I apologize. But upon watching it a second time and hearing that you guys didn't really get to shoot that much in Boston, do you feel like that ended up adding a lot to the look and feel of the film? Because so much of it is tight and in close-ups, and you're kind of blurring, at least out of having the background out of focus a fair amount, and it adds a much even more intimate quality than maybe you would have if you had those locations to shoot and you could show them off. Or was that part of your intention right away? Anyway?
I mean, I don't think we chose the style because it was like, oh, this doesn't look like it wasn't so. It's all about what's going on in his head, so it lends itself to like staying tight on Ben. So if you like Ben's face, you're gonna love Brad's status. But anyway,
and sold. Thanks, guys.
Ooh, more of this. What? So yes, we shot on some nice campuses though. None that are named in the movie. The movies, the schools that are named in the movie were not actually where we shot. But do you know what Tufts looks like? All right, well, then it doesn't matter to you. It looks pretty, right? So, yeah, it was fine. We had a good time. And it was nice it's fun to be on campus with young people. And anyway, Austin?
No, I don't know. I don't think I had any.
Let's get another question right here.
Hi, guys. My brother's actually a Harvard grad, so I can't wait to take him to see the film. But if you could describe the film in one word, what would you say?
One word? Devastating. No, I don't know. Perfect? No.
There it is.
I mean, I would describe it in a couple words. Funny, relatable, devastating.
I would agree with that.
Can't do the one word thing here. Guys, as I said, I love the film so much. How can people see it? When can they see Brad's Status?
Thank you for asking. It comes out Friday in New York and LA. Friday, September 15th, and September 22nd, it comes to a theater near you.
It's a beautiful film, and I think a subtly important film. Thanks so much for being here. Brad Status, everybody, this Friday. Go check it out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming, you guys.